Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan, and I'm a Mickaboo volunteer. All of the people presenting today are Mickaboo volunteers. Mickaboo is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to education and the rescue and adoption of companion birds. We're a virtual organization with no paid staff, no physical location, caring for over 450 birds spread across more than 100 foster homes. We rely on donations to be able to serve the birds that we work with. And due to the poor state of health that many of our birds arrive in, our veterinary bills average $50,000 a month. That wasn't a misprint or whatever the vocal equivalent is. $50,000 for essential veterinary care. And these costs are often so high because newly rescued birds require medical attention after being neglected for a long time or failing health, accidents from escape, injury from pets or other animals. So if you're able to help, please consider donating. And if you're looking to adopt a forever bird friend, you're in the right place. Okay, end of the infomercial. Since we're an all-volunteer organization, and because we want to be really careful about the well-being of the birds, the process can take a long time. It's not like you go to the shelter, pick out a dog, and go home with the dog. It takes several weeks to get through the process because it's multi-stage, and we want to ensure that we get to know you and your situation, review what we learned carefully, and help you make an educated decision about what kind of bird is right for you. It can take 8 to 10 weeks, sometimes longer for a bigger bird, but please be patient because the results are worth it. And if you feel like you haven't heard from us, do ping us. Sometimes things accidentally drop, and the reminders are welcome and helpful. I'm hoping that one of the birds we'll be showing today is going to be the perfect fit for you. I'll be introducing them to you one at a time, but as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have, either through the Q&A tab in Zoom or by commenting on the live stream in Facebook. Today, we'll be meeting some of our Mickaboo birds who are seeking forever homes. In order today, we will meet Bobby, the double yellow-headed Amazon, little baby 2, who is a society finch, Pancho, who's another Amazon, Favre and Ronaldo, and some of their budgie friends, and Azir, another budgie. And we'll talk about the approval process to foster or adopt a bird while we spotlight our first bird today. We'll introduce a bird and their foster so you can learn more about them. Hey, Megan.
Hi,
How's it
Jonathan.
going?
Good. How are
And
you?
I'm well. And you look great with pink hair and Bobby's yellow head. You guys are quite a pair. I want to run our viewers through the adoption process, and Bobby seems interested too. That's great. Hi, Bobby. Um, if you haven't already been approved to foster or adopt, you'll start here. And if you've already adopted or fostered for Mickaboo, then you've done this step already, and you can skip ahead. The first step is to attend our basic bird class. Birds are complex creatures. They have needs that are completely different from those of a cat or a dog. They have their own body language, their own physical needs, even their own vets. We'll cover all of this in our basic bird class, which is free and held online every 2 or 3 weeks over Zoom. From there, you'll fill out an application and be matched with a phone screener. This conversation will take about an hour, and it'll help us better understand what you're looking for in a bird, your knowledge of birds and bird care, and for you to clarify or ask any questions that you might have about birds or the adoption process, health care, all that good stuff. Hello, Bobby. Hello. It's so nice to see you. Once the phone screen is complete, the next step is a home visit. This can be done in person, where a Mickaboo volunteer will visit your home, or sometimes it's done online through Zoom or other software. Regardless of how it's done, the purpose is the same. It's a way for us to identify potential dangers in your home, help you find them, help you mitigate them, help you find a good place for a cage, and get to know anyone who will be caring for the bird. If you own current birds, we'll want to see them in cages that you might have, and the parts of the house where the bird will be. This isn't a white glove test. We don't mind a bit of a mess, and we don't need to see bedrooms or places that the birds won't be. Once the home visit is over, the entire package is sent off to the approvals board for review. They get on their perches like that, their high perches, like just like Bobby, and then review your stuff. Once you're approved, the coordinator for your first choice species will reach out to chat with you, let you know that you're approved, and work with you to find a good match for you. Then we get to the fun part, which is meeting the birds and finding one that's perfect for you. So let's talk about Bobby, this very handsome Amazon who is now stepping up onto a stick after having politely said, I don't want to step up on a hand. That was
Hi.
nice demonstration of bird language. Hi, Megan. Hi, Bobby. How old is Bobby?
Bobby is about 35 years old.
And 35, is that old for an Amazon?
It's about mid-age. Amazons with proper care and diet could live into their 80s. So he's a middle-aged man.
Yeah. Well, if our watchers who are 35 years old might object to being called middle-aged. So yeah, but he's right in the prime of his life. That's certainly, and he looks great. How did he come to Mickaboo?
Yeah, so Bobby actually, unlike most Amazons, he lived with one human his entire life, and he came to Mickaboo a couple months ago. That human was getting a little bit older and wanted to be prepared and make sure that he was set up, and also had an allergy that he was exacerbating. So that's why he came to Mickaboo, and he's been with us for about 4 months now.
All right. And how is his health?
His health is pretty good. I've not noticed any health concerns. We've worked to get him on a good diet, so I've got good faith that his health will continue to be pretty good.
You mentioned good diet. What does he eat?
Yeah, so he loves pellets. His favorite is
Yay.
Harrison's pellets, and I am delighted that he loves them. So he loves Harrison's pellets, and then he's a pretty good with eating his fresh veggies and fruit. He loves apple, that's one of his favorites. He loves papaya, but we get that rarely, and he does like to ask for papaya. So be prepared for that if you bring Bobby home. He's going to ask for a lot of papaya.
And that's one of his words, right? Papaya?
Yeah, papaya is one of his words, and you might hear him as we're talking. He'll say, "Give me a papaya." He'll say, "Give me a cracker," and he's combined them, and he says, "Give me a pa cracker," which I think is so cute.
That's crackers are great. I think the crackers are dried papaya, so he knows exactly. He's inventing new foods that already exist. You go, Bobby.
Yeah.
Um, how big a cage should an Amazon like Bobby have? He's a pretty
Yeah,
big
Amazons
bird.
need a larger cage. And when you're going through our process, we will advise you. So please don't buy a cage ahead of time. We will support you in getting the right size cage for your bird. But they definitely need more space. They need space to be able to climb around in their cage and hang out and not feel like they're cloistered into a small area.
Yeah, I'll expand on that. The cage behind us that Bobby is perched on would be a little small as a full-time cage for an Amazon.
Yes, that is his carrier. We use that to travel and go places, but that is not his full-time cage. His full-time cage is about 4 times bigger than that.
Yep, that's the point I wanted to make for sure. Um, what kind of toys does he like?
So he is pretty good about toys. He likes hardwood. He'll chew up some hardwood toys. He has a big plastic ring that came with him. That's been his toy that's come with him, and he loves that. He'll hang out on his ring. But he's pretty good about toys. He's adventurous. He'll try the different things I give him.
So Amazons can be loud. All parrots can be loud, but Amazons certainly can be on the loud end of the parrot spectrum. What about Bobby?
Yeah, so Bobby is on the quieter end for an Amazon. He does have a, ooh, good boy, kiss, thank you. You give kisses. Are you showing that off? He does
Yeah,
have a pretty large vocabulary of words that he likes to mimic. So he will do that a lot, but he doesn't really call out too much when he's on his own. I would say he could probably be okay in an apartment as long as you're giving him attention. He's not going to be making those super loud flock calls all day. That's not been his behavior.
cool. He looks like he might want to go back on his carrier perch.
I think he does. Yeah, we're gonna look at that.
Yep, and that was a really nice, clear example of parrot language with Bobby turning around and looking back there and leaning. That was great, and he noticed that too, and now he's quite happy there. The other thing about Amazons, and I'll move to a question from our audience in a moment, but they can be pretty feisty. And watching Bobby, he seems very mellow. His eyes weren't pinning at all. And he seemed really comfortable on your hand and giving you a kiss. So what's he like in terms of, again, he seems pretty mellow.
Yeah, I am on the Amazon team, so I know most of Mickaboo's Amazons, and I can confidently say Bobby is on, as you said, the chiller side for Amazons. He is very friendly. His eyes do pin some, and that's usually a sign of excitement in a bird. But his don't do it nearly as much as other Amazons I've seen. And he's been friendly for pretty much anybody that we have met. This week we did get a chance to meet some children, and he was not a huge fan of that. So I don't think he loves kids. But otherwise, he's been pretty good around people. He will give anybody a kiss that comes up and asks, offers it, and he will happily take papaya from anyone who offers it to him.
Uh, Chill Bobby, the happy papaya guy. Now we've got the beginnings of a song. One of our viewers is asking, what's it like for a 35-year-old bird who's been with one person to lose his home and go to a new one? They say, I'm curious if it's similar to a cat who'd likely find it scary and confusing. Bobby seems relaxed, but I'm not a bird person. And I'll start with that by saying the birds definitely form strong attachments and they do grieve. Um, and they handle it kind of individually, but for many of them, it takes them a while to adjust to a new situation. But now, how about Bobby?
Yeah, that is generally the case. And we teach y'all in the class to be patient and give a bird a chance to get used to being in the new home with you. And thank you for pointing that out. That is a big change for him after 35 years to be moving homes. Bobby has been doing really well. He adjusted really well to moving homes. I'm actually his second foster with Mickaboo. He had to move out of his first foster due to their own health reasons. And he's been fine both times. He's adapted really quickly. As long as you have time to give him attention, that's all he's really looking for is for focused attention from his human companion. But otherwise, the moving, he's been fine. He ate normally, didn't have any big real upsets. He's been a champ, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just really loving his temperament and how he's being. Um, Looks like a wonderful bird and a great Amazon for someone who is potentially interested in him. So what's a day with Bobby like?
Yeah, so I work from home. This is my little setup next to my desk. So when I'm working from home, half the day he'll be sitting around here, hanging out with me, eating his meals next to me. And he just really, again, wants to be doing what you're doing. He cannot fly, so I regularly bring him with me to do tasks throughout the house. He'll sit at my kitchen table while I'm cooking. He just really wants to be a part of your day, and he really integrates nicely into that. He just wants to be around you.
So in our last few minutes, what else would you want potential adopters to know about Bobby, and what kind of person would make a good landing spot for him?
Yeah, definitely somebody who has patience. He is an Amazon, and he might be a mild Amazon, but he's still an Amazon. And as you've seen here, he does express his opinions and interests, and you should be monitoring his body language to account for that. It sounds like probably not a house with kids, but the house did have a dog. The dog did not like him, but Bobby was fine with the dog. So he would be fine in a house with other animals as long as you're monitoring, making sure everyone is safe and that he gets all of his attention. And possibly a house that would like to work with him on his singing. I'm told that he knows the Hallelujah chorus. I've yet to have that happen in the last few weeks he's been with me, but apparently he will start singing Hallelujah if you get him going.
Well, amen, brother Bobby. Amen. Thank you so much, Megan. We're going to move to our next bird. Now, Bobby weighs probably in the range of 400 or 500 grams, and we're going to move to a bird who weighs less than 50 grams, a society finch named Little Baby 2. Hi, Martha, are you there?
I am.
He's so small, he's invisible.
Go on, sweetie. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I want to remind our viewers while we have this, because birds don't always act on cue. But you can ask questions about finches or about parrots or Bobby or Little Baby in particular, in the Q&A in Zoom or on the live feed there you are. Hey, bud. The live feed on Facebook. That's what it's called. So how old is Little Baby? They're perched on the water dish.
Little Baby is, we think, 6 to 7 years old, according to the person who surrendered her. She was the last of several finches that she had, that I guess had been breeding, and that's why she's called Little Baby too.
Right. That makes sense. There must have been a Little Baby 1.
Yeah.
And so is that old for a finch? Is she just looking for sort of a nice chill place to end up?
Yeah. She would probably like to be with other finches. As a matter of fact, she's currently still in quarantine, so she's by herself, but I will be, unless she's adopted before quarantine is up, she'll go in with the zebra finches that I'm also fostering because they do well together. But yes, she would. I would not expect to put her in a place with lots and lots of activity, like lots of much younger finches. Yeah, she's
right.
Older for a finch, definitely.
And she's a society finch, right? Now, how's that? That's a species, I'm guessing. So tell us about society finches.
They're also called Bengali finches or Bengalese finches. And they were, I think, originally domesticated in China. So this is a finch that is more akin to, say, like a pigeon or a dove, a bird that's been domesticated, as opposed to parrots or even zebra finches, which have not been. They may be bred here, but they're not domesticated. This is not a finch that you would normally find in the wild. So that is one difference. Very sweet bird, very, very sweet.
And I'm guessing that per their name, they like to be social and be around other finches.
Yes. I think all finches really do, because even if you see finches out in the wild, like house finches, which we see all over the place, they're always in flocks. They're never by themselves. That's not a good look for a finch.
Yeah. No, definitely not a good life for a finch. How big should how big should a finch flock be? How much finch would a finch flock? No.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And what's the smallest flock that people might have? So what's the size range for a flock if you're going to have finches?
We usually look at, say, having 4 of the smaller birds, especially like finches and budgies. Gives them an opportunity to sort of mix it up in their who they're associating with. I've had as many as 10 finches in a cage, and they seem to do fine. I definitely, you would want to keep the males and females separated. That's one of the reasons we have so many finches in foster care, is that we did a rescue a couple of years ago of a large aviary where the finch breeding just got out of control. So, having a flock of just female or just male finches would be, 6 to 10 finches would make a nice flock.
Right. That makes sense. One of our viewers is asking about quarantine and, to define it and how long it lasts. So I'll start and then you can expand. Mickaboo has a policy to quarantine new birds for 6 weeks. Birds, like other prey animals, can be really, really good at hiding illness. And so 6 weeks is generally a good amount of time for problems to show up. Even after a vet visit, things can show up. And sometimes things show up after 6 weeks. But that seems to be, um, a good, moderately conservative amount of time. And we don't mean, in a hermetically sealed case, or anything like that, but we do mean a room in the house with separate airspace, a door that can be closed. And this is if you have other birds. It is keeping them separate from other birds in your house. Again, just to prevent the possible spread of disease. You want to expand on that a little bit, Martha?
Well, I have what I use for quarantine. Well, I've used several different rooms in the house. Sometimes it's my bedroom. Sometimes she is in my office, and has actually had a couple of other birds come fly in and visit her. So and she can hear the other birds. So that's something that's nice. You don't have to keep them, in solitary confinement. They can hear each other, which is good for social birds.
Right.
But she's almost done. Next week we'll be done with quarantine. So
yay!
To that.
That'll
Yay.
be
Yeah.
a very
she's doing really
thing.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. She looks like she's enjoying the water and enjoying where she is.
Yeah.
So what do finches eat? Their diet certainly would be different from parrots. They're much smaller and their beaks are very different.
They eat mostly seed. They're seed eaters, so canary seed, millet. So I have a good mix that I've bought. And then they also get grains, which I have clipped to the side of her cage. I'm not sure how much she's interested in them because I don't know if she got them in her previous home. But I know that if she goes in with the zebra finches, she'll certainly follow their lead because they certainly like grains, especially romaine and parsley and spring greens. So those are the two. So they are pretty easy to take care of. They don't need any grit. They don't need any other kind of special care. They do need a lot of space in order to fly. So that's important for them.
Yeah, and they fly in their cages. We don't typically have finches out free, so they would probably need a big cage relative to how little they are. How big a cage would you keep a flock of 4 to 6 finches in?
The cage she's in, she's all by herself in this big cage, is about 31 inches long, and that's the dimension that you really want to pay attention to. That and the bar spacing. You want it to be long because they fly back and forth. It has 1/2-inch bar spacing, so she can't get her head stuck or anything.
That's important.
And it's like 20 inches deep and about 30 inches high. But again, birds do tend to spend most of their time in the top of the cage. So, the height is really not very important. It's really the length and bar
length
spacing.
and
Yeah.
width and bar spacing. Yeah, it's the bar spacing is small. A bigger bird could do in a cage this size, but it would have different bar spacing. So they need a big cage, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Someone is asking how you keep her cage, including the perches, clean.
It's really pretty easy because finch droppings are really easy to clean up. There's a lot of them, but they come off really easily.
And they're very small.
She's very small, and she tends to not really poop on the perches, so it really is just on the bottom of the cage. If you want to, I have paper in the bottom of the cage, but I could even put it on top of the grate, and that would be fine. So I just clean with like vinegar and water, and change the paper out every day. And she's just remarkably easy.
That's awesome. What makes finches enjoyable to have? I know that they're really kind of chattery and a very low volume, and it's a very sweet kind of noise to have in the background.
It's really beautiful. The zebra finches are fun because we call them little beepers because they just beep. They make this little beepy noise. The society finch, and I'm told she's female. I don't know. I tried to look up whether you could really tell by voice or anything between the males and females, but I can't tell. but she does do a lot of little trilling, which is very pretty and very soothing. It's just,
Nice.
yeah, I don't know what it would be like to have a whole flock of the society finches, but it's really, it's got to be the least offensive sound in the entire world. Definitely
Sweet.
good for people who want birds, but don't necessarily want to deal with the mess and noise of a parrot, perhaps, but
Right.
like having avian companionship.
Right. Nice.
Go on.
Really nice. So in our last few minutes, what else would you want potential adopters to know about little baby and maybe having a few finches? And I'll add that we wouldn't adopt little baby out by herself unless it was to a home that had finches, because she really does need to be part of a flock. And the smaller birds, budgies and finches, we adopt out at least in pairs or to people who already have potential flock members.
Right. And if you don't have potential flock members, we can certainly provide them for you. I think finches would be great for almost any kind of home because they're pretty self-sufficient. They don't require that you interact with them so much. They would be safe in a home, with children or other pets because they stay in their cage. You don't have to worry about them getting out and getting into things. Two things that I love about her is one about her head feathers are kind of flattened a little, and I wonder if she's not part Gloucester finch, which is a breed of finch that has very funny looking flattened feathers. So I always think about that when I look at her. And she loves to bathe. The bathing of a small finch, the enthusiasm is just remarkable to me. I just I walk into the room, it's like, why is there so much water on the floor?
What wasn't that a great Shakespeare play, The Bathing of the Finch? I think it's one of his unsung works. Okay, thank you so much, Martha. It's great
Thank you.
talking to you and seeing little baby in action. And
Thanks.
now we're going to go big again. You can tell by my background that this is Amazon Day, and this is Pancho. So, Megan, tell us about Pancho as he's climbing out of his handsome stainless steel cage.
Yeah, this is Pancho, and Pancho is a yellow-naped Amazon, so a different species than Bobby. And he's also been with Mickaboo for a couple of months now.
And do we know how old Pancho is?
So we're not 100% sure on how old Pancho is, but he was recently at one of our vets who, by the band that's on Pancho's leg, believes that Pancho was a wild-caught bird. So that means he would have most likely come into the States somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s before we passed the law preventing us from bringing in parrots from the wild.
So he is also probably in his 30s or even perhaps 40.
Yeah, he's in his 30s or 40s for sure. So also a middle-aged guy. And I did want to briefly talk about this kind of parrot in the wild and their conservation status.
Yeah, let's talk about Amazons in the wild because I think both species, yellow nape and double yellowhead, are endangered in the wild.
Yeah, that's really unfortunately true. And Mickaboo, through our rescue work, we're part of the Parrot Conservation Alliance, which is a group of rescues like Mickaboo, sanctuaries, and then folks doing real conservation work in the field with these birds. And yellow napes like Pancho are critically endangered in the wild, and double yellowheads like Bobby are endangered in the wild. And their populations have dropped somewhere between 70 and 92%. And most of that is due to, unfortunately, poaching still. A lot of parrots are still poached. You cannot legally bring them to the United States. That doesn't mean that isn't happening. But it's a big market for them that they're being taken to other countries. And it's really, really sad to hear, but birds that are poached, about 60 to 80% of them don't ever make it to a home. So we're really trying to educate people about how dire a situation it is for these parrots in the wild and support conservation work for them.
Yeah, and the other way of saying that that's a little more clear is that wild birds who are poached for pet trade, 80% of them die in the process. The poachers really don't care because relative to them, the cost of the money they can get from one bird justifies, only one out of 100 or a few out of 100 making it. It's very sad. And the other big problem that's happening with Amazon parrots and parrots throughout both Central America and Africa is deforestation and loss of habitats. And, if you don't have a place to live, you're not going to live long, and you're not going to breed, and you're not going to reproduce. So it is a big problem, and I really encourage our viewers to support parrot conservation and other conservation efforts. And thank you so much for bringing it up, Megan. Let's go back to Pancho. I think you mentioned a trip to the vet. How is their health?
Yeah, Pancho's health is pretty good. His foster home noticed that he started to have some stinky poops and droppings. And for folks who don't know, parrot droppings shouldn't really have an odor. So if you do notice a smell, that is a sign that there could be something going on with their health. So he went to the vet. Vet didn't find anything and just suggested that we put some apple cider vinegar in his water. It's been a few weeks now, and I hear that the smell has cleared up. So he seems to be doing better.
That's great. So a little apple cider vinegar helped whatever was in his digestive tract. I noticed he steps right over to his carrier. This small cage, once again, is a carrier. It's not a living cage. So it looks like he's comfortable going into his carrier, and he was comfortable stepping up onto the perch. Does he step up on hands or just on perches so far?
I think right now he's just stepping up on perches, but he will, as you mentioned, he will climb right into his carrier. He is excited to go on adventures with you.
Yay, Bobby. He seems pretty chill too. Maybe not quite as chill as Pancho, yeah. Not quite as chill as Bobby, but he seems pretty chill.
Yeah, I think he is pretty chill. There is another Amazon parrot in this house who does not like Pancho being there, but Pancho is fine with the other bird. Just the other bird doesn't like him.
So, and have we seen him with other pets, non-bird pets or children?
I'm not sure about children, but there have been dogs around, and I think that he has been fine. Again, we don't let these species directly interact with each other, but he's been fine having other animals in the home.
Right. Yeah. When we say good with, we don't mean that they sit and play together, but we mean is the parrot seem nervous or agitated or upset by the presence of a dog or a child? How does he interact with people? Does English, please. He does step up on perches, not on hands, but does he seem to want interaction with people? How does he like to interact?
Yeah. His foster home says that I think she's on, by the way. Hello, Sonia. We're happy to have you here. His foster says that he seems really interested in people. She thinks if somebody has a lot of focused time to give him, that he would do really well with that and possibly start learning some fun tricks that would be good for him, not just to make him do something cute, but a good enriching activity for him to do.
Yeah, you bring up another really good point. Parrots, like Pancho and like all of the parrots we're talking about, are super intelligent, and they just like us humans, they really actually enjoy learning things. And learning new things and having new toys and puzzles and things can be very, very enriching for them and really makes their life, if they have to live in captivity, it makes their life much better. And since, this bird is already a pet bird who is now adapted to being a pet bird, that's what he'll be doing. And is the more enrichment we can provide, the better. So what's Bobby's diet like?
Pancho. So this is Pancho.
Right. I fell in love with Bobby, and I Bobby on my mind. So let's talk about Pancho. What's Pancho's diet like? Bobby likes Harrison's, but we're talking about Pancho.
Yeah, Pancho's not quite on Harrison's yet. Pancho, like many birds who come to Mickaboo, was not on the best of diets when he came in. He was primarily eating just seeds, which would be the equivalent of me eating essentially potato chips as my primary diet and expecting to have good health in my 30s. So we're working to get him on a pelleted diet like Bobby. He has some pellets that he is liking and he will try them, but he still does get seeds offered because that's what he's used to. So we're transitioning him to a better diet. He likes fresh food a lot. He's really good. He prefers fruit to veggies, but he's good about eating his chop.
Excellent. Yeah, fruits and vegetables are super important. And getting off of potato chips, always a good thing. Yeah. Um, let's talk about toys. He seems to like his ring. What kind of toys does Pancho like?
Yeah, so his foster doesn't think that he really had many toys before coming to Mickaboo, which is sad. Birds should all have enrichment in their environment. So she's been introducing him to toys. You'll see here he does have those kind of foot toys he's learning to play with, the stacking rings. His favorite have been more shreddable kind of things, like mats and stuff that you can shred. That's been his favorite. Those little finger trap toys, things like that that he can shred. He's been more interested in than hardwood.
Got it. And we talked about Amazons and their potential volume. How is Bobby in terms of noise? When is he most active, and how loud is he when he's vocal?
Yeah, so Pancho, unlike Bobby, Pancho has not mimicked yet. So he could have a vocabulary that he's hiding for us, but he hasn't been a mimic so far in his home. He does make some Amazon-y calls. He has a little kind of chirping sound, I'm told, that he'll make, but it's not very loud. His foster does think that he would be okay in an apartment in a smaller living space. He will, when you leave a room, he will do his little chirp flock call to you, but it doesn't last very long and it's not very loud, is what I'm told.
That is not very loud. So okay, thanks. In our last few minutes, what else would you want potential adopters to know about Pancho?
He's just a really fun bird. He's looking for someone again who can give him a lot of attention and time. And keep an eye out on your coffee cup. I'm told his foster was walking by with a cup of coffee that was thankfully not hot. And Pancho unexpectedly stuck his whole head in the cup and started to gurgle. And birds should not drink caffeine, so do not offer your birds coffee. And if you've got Pancho, be careful offering coffee around him. He might go for it.
Kids, don't try this at home. Yeah, I'm a South American bird, and there's coffee was my friend. No, no coffee for birds. No alcoholic beverages either. But I
Right.
did know a bird who liked to have a mocktail while their owners had a cocktail, so they had a little fruit juice in a special glass, and they really liked that. Okay, thank you so much, Megan, for the double Amazon feature. And we're
Yeah.
going to go and talk about some budgies here, back down to birds. So, Peggy, here we
Hello,
go.
Jonathan.
I like that we captioned this. This is a video of a small flock of budgies, and blinds are closed while recording the video because these guys would really need and should have, all birds should have natural light and bright environments. So we're talking about two of these five birds, Favre and Ronaldo. It looks like they are climbing around a big piece of wet lettuce. Is that a bathing opportunity for them?
It's a bathing opportunity as well as hopefully an eating opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, it sure seems to be a little of both. So one way you can get birds who might not otherwise bathe to do so is by hanging greens like this, wet greens. And as they nibble on them, the water shakes off on them and on their friends who are sitting underneath, and it becomes a really nice bath. So this is a flock, and we're talking about two of these birds. Can we identify which two are Favre and who's Favre and who's Ronaldo?
Bob is the white and blue one who is immersing himself in himself in the lettuce, and Ronaldo is the green one
Got
on
it.
I believe on the right. So they're the two that are the most friendly from this flock and the most outgoing.
Tell us about how they got to Mickaboo, because that's an important part of this story.
So Mickaboo takes in people surrender to us because they can't take care of their birds anymore. But we also take in birds from animal control. So these birds lived in a home in San Francisco, and their owner had passed away. And they were in their house, in their cage, and they were covered up. And when the emergency responders came in, they didn't even know there were birds in the house. And by the time
they were a covered up cage, which looks like a covered piece of furniture, and
correct,
they were being
and
quiet.
birds will be quiet when they're covered. So they didn't even know the birds were there. So by the time they were discovered, they had been drinking nasty, dirty water and dirty food. And so once they were found, they were taken to animal control. One of the flock had passed away that night. They asked Mickaboo if we would take the birds in. And so we did. We got them immediately to an avian vet. And I believe another one may have passed then as well. So these birds spent quite a bit of time at an avian vet, getting treated for various things. Excuse me. And then they went, all of them but one came to this foster home. And then the last of the group joined them several weeks later. And so that's how they came to us and came to their foster.
Got it. This speaks to the need for quarantine. You know, these birds were at the vet for a while, but even so, I believe that one of them died after leaving the vet. Is that
That's correct? So they came to their foster mother. I'm not their foster mother. Their foster mother recorded this video. So she had them in quarantine for 6 weeks. And then one of the birds started not looking good, and she took it to the vet, and less than 48 hours later, it had passed. So even though it had spent the time at the vet, and even though they'd been quarantined, things still sometimes come up. Birds are prey animals. They hide things very well.
They hide illness really, really well. So even though they'd been through their quarantine, we're reserving these birds from adoption for a little while until we know that they're free of whatever it was.
Correct.
Because they were living in a situation that was so unsanitary.
Correct.
That their health was pretty compromised. They actually look like they're doing pretty well, but of course, as we were just saying, they hide illness well, but they're active right now and interacting and being budgies.
Right. So
How
right
are
now
they?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Oh, so what? So we know the bird passed. We are a necropsy was done, and we are waiting for further information because this was really recently, within the past week or so. We're waiting for word from the vet as to what kind of treatment that these birds may need, because the cause of death was something that can be passed from bird to bird.
Right.
Not easily, is my understanding. And I'm not a vet by any means. So we're taking precautions. They're not going to be available for adoption until we hear back from the vet and find out what kind of treatment and what would recommend before they can be put up for adoption after treatment.
With that said, if people are looking for budgies, Mickaboo does have a lot of budgies who are available for adoption.
Always.
Yeah, always. Partly because budgies are the most popular species of bird, partly because they're available in pet stores inexpensively, and so a lot of them wind up in rescue. And one of the things that this is a digression from Favre and Ronaldo, but one of the things that most impressed me about Mickaboo when I first became aware of the organization and encouraged me to participate so much is that every bird, whether it's a budgie that you can get in the pet store for $20, or it's a macaw, a special species of macaw that would fetch $10,000 on the open market, they all get as much medical care as they need through Mickaboo. It's every bird is given the same chance, and that's so important and such a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear they're getting care. How are they with people? You know, they went through a rough time.
So the foster mom wanted to really showcase Favre, and I'm probably saying his name incorrectly half the time, but Favre and Ronaldo are two of the friendlier ones. And when she goes up to the cage and talks to them, they will fly up to the side of the cage to be next to her. So she believes that they were probably well loved by their previous owner, that they spent time with them, and that they're pretty well socialized. So she doesn't think it would take a whole lot to to get them back to that point, that she thinks they're friendly enough. So sometimes we get budgies in that are just absolutely terrified, and you go anywhere near the cage and they just flutter away. They can't get away from you fast enough. And as you can see, she's got the camera right there, and they're not bothered in the least. One of the things
Yeah,
in the video here I'd like to point out, Jonathan, is this mat in the back is a seagrass mat with toys hanging on it. And that's one of their favorite play toys.
the seagrass mat and chewing on that a little bit, and I'll bet that that lasts a lot longer in a budgie cage than it would with an Amazon or an African gray.
I'm sure it does.
Um, and so you can go in and clean the cage and stuff, and they don't panic.
No,
That's great. Do any of these birds seem bonded? Do we
no.
know, meaning that they would really need to stay together as a pair?
At this point in time, and so foster mom has probably had them 8 to 10 weeks at least. She says so far there's been no sign of bonding, although if you watch these two at the bottom, they're kind of feeding each other. So maybe some might be developing a little bit, but otherwise she says there's no sign. They're all individual, and when they become available for adoption, then if you need a single to pair up with a single, then they would certainly be an option.
So, how big a cage should a group of budgies have? And you know, ideally, they should be at least in a pair.
Ideally, they
Um,
should be at least in a pair. I also foster budgies, and I would put a pair in a cage that's 18 by 18 by about 30. These guys here are in a cage that is 47 inches long. Again, as Martha was saying with the finch, birds want to be able to fly. They fly horizontally, not vertically. So we always want the cage length to be longer. So it's 47 inches long. It's 37 inches wide, or it's 47 high, 37 long, and 23 wide. So I think she referred to it as an XL flight cage. It's a really good sized cage.
that sounds great. A good space for them to be in.
Yes.
All right. So in our last few minutes, anything you'd like to share with potential adopters?
Um, Foster mom wanted folks to know that the boys all seem to be pretty happy and chirpy little birds. She's going to, of course, continue to monitor their health and take care of whatever the vet recommends. They love to play with their toys. They like to chew the bark off their perches,
Hmm,
which,
I see that.
yeah, that's really something for budgies, because that bark tends to be pretty tough. And that they eat Lefever's Nutri-End cakes, the greens, broccoli, and they get millet for treat.
All right. Um, Thank you so much for sharing them with us, and hopefully they'll all be well and cleared for adoption before too long. And meanwhile, if you are interested in budgies, there are lots of budgies looking for their forever homes. We're going to look at another budgie, and this is a recorded segment because the foster parent was not available today. So we're going to look and see and hear about a budgie named Azir. So here is Azir, and I think we are seeing him on video. He's a very handsome budgie. Do we know how old he is?
So, Azir is about 7 years old. Doing the math from when they got her, I think the ones who surrendered her got her around winter of 2017. So she's
So
about
So about 7. Is that old for a budgie?
It's actually a good age, so they can go from 7 to 15 years of age, depending on their care.
Right. Yeah, it's not uncommon for them to reach 15. I know that. And
Mhm.
some have gone longer. Um, how did they come to Mickaboo?
So Azir was surrendered, I believe from what I remember, it was due to health issues. Um, you know, from the couple that surrendered Azir.
It looks like Azir likes to donate money. It's just really cute.
I mean, Azir
Um,
being everything and anything that you're in, the space you're in.
and he's very pissy, it looks like, too.
Yes.
Really cute. Now, budgies need to have friends, ideally budgie friends. And Mickaboo won't adopt out single budgies. Does he have any friends that he's bonded to, or is he looking to join another budgie or a small flock?
So I think there's been a conversation with finding a pair for Azir. Now Azir has been a single budgie and a single bird her whole life until she came to me. I do have other budgies of my own, so she does get along with them, and my cockatiels. She plays with them, she'll hang out with them, but I don't house her together with them because I do see she has more of a bossy personality. She'll actually chase one of my cockatiels until she's done with him or distracted by something else. And you can see here too, and I think I'll also send a couple more videos of her interacting with another budgie, but she'll get along with them. She will play with them, um, but she doesn't have a pair yet.
Got it. So how does she interact with people? We saw that she will give kisses. Does she step up?
She is picky about stepping up, so no, she wouldn't willingly step up, but she wants to hang out on your shoulder, on your hair. She loves a human interaction. That's kind of what she looks forward to all day. She cares more for being with the human than she does with the birds. As you can even see here, she's not with them. She's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And she'll go back to the human.
Right, right. Well, the humans got the food too, so there's that. Uh, um, would she be better paired with a male or a female bird?
I would say male. I do have two males and two females. She gets along with all of them, but uh she does get along with the male more than the female. But I can't really say whether she would pick one over the other. I would probably say male if, the one who's taking care of them is able to kind of regulate that.
Yeah, that's the tough part about pairing opposite sex budgies together is little budgies.
Yeah.
So there also ways for females. Um, have we see her with other birds, so that's great. What about other pets or maybe children?
She hasn't had interaction with children as far as she's been with me. Um, Other adults, yes, she's good with them as well, but then she will pick and gravitate towards the one who takes care of her. In my case, that would be me. So even if there are other adults in the room, she would still gravitate towards me. Um, and I'm guessing that would be the same with whoever she goes to next.
She has a preference for you. Does she seem to have a gender preference in general, or it's just whomever she's bonded with, or maybe it seems to be that she bonds more with female people?
I'm not sure. I think she's had female, human companions so before me, the foster before me, myself, and her original caretaker. So I can't really say to that because I haven't really seen her interact with a lot of males.
Got it. What get to housing, and what sort of housing does a budgie or a group of budgies need?
Um, So she is currently in a cage that is 30 height, 17 deep, and 24 wide. But the ideal depth should be about 18 by 18 by 18, I believe.
Right.
And she's housed by herself. I would say this could be good for maybe 2 budgies, but any more than that, definitely a bigger flight cage.
That makes sense. And what's a day like with Azir?
Um, do not leave her unsupervised because she will get into anything and everything. And she will get herself into trouble more than you'd like for her to. Like, I mean, you can see right here, if she could get caught in something, she could find
Yeah, this is a scary picture. Yeah.
Um, she does hang out and play with other birds. I don't know if you can hear her right now. She's kind of screaming too.
Nope.
It's a very active day with Azir. Azir does not sit still, and Azir will be where you are and would want to do what you're doing. So she's going to be in your space constantly.
So it seems like although she doesn't step up, she really, really likes and wants to interact with humans.
Yes, very much. And whatever human is interacting with.
Right. Thank you. So in our last few minutes, what else would you want to share with potential adopters, or that they should know about adopting Azir?
She makes a great companion, and with enough time, I know she will learn to also interact with other budgies. I mean, I'm not really afraid to keep her out with other birds. I just want to make sure that she's supervised so that she's not getting into trouble. But she's a great companion. She's a great bird to have around.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Of course. Thank you.
And thank you, Sarah and Jonathan. Oh, that's me. And thank you all for attending Mickaboo's virtual adoption fair. If you have any ideas or comments on how we can improve for next time, please include it in the event survey, which you'll get a link for when you exit, because your feedback is always helpful and we are always looking to get better. Let's quickly review the adoption steps with a slide on screen so that everything is nice and clear. And remember, you can always get this information on our website at mickaboo.org. So the first thing you do is attend the basic bird care class, or the BBC, but not that BBC. And we hold that every few weeks, and it's fully online, and you will learn a lot, I promise. Once you've done the class, complete your application, and that's an easy thing to do. And then there'll be a phone interview where we'll learn things about you, and you'll learn things that you want to do about birds. And a home visit, more of the same. And after that, you will hopefully be approved and matched with a bird. And that is how that whole thing goes. So there are a lot more birds who need their forever homes. And if you fell in love with one of these birds, please contact us. And if one of these birds didn't seem like the right bird for you, please take a look at the rest of the birds we have available on our website, mickaboo.org. Please remember that we're a fully donation-funded nonprofit, and you can support this work of parrot rescue at mickaboo.org/donate or paypal.me/mickaboo. We'll be doing these events regularly. We'll try to do things a little differently next year. Check in about this and other events on the events page on our website at mickaboo.org. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of our foster parents and their birds being brave enough to come on video or taking the time to take a video of their birds ahead of time, and for all of the volunteers who provided technical support and help and kept this event running smoothly. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Thank you very much. Let's roll credits.